Do you ever feel like all of the business advice out there was written for people who don't have kids? You know, the kind that comes from those childless dudes who just tell you to hustle harder, wake up earlier, and sacrifice more of what's important to you, as if that's even possible when you've got little ones needing you 24/7. Today's episode is for every mom who's ever wondered, can I really build a successful business without sacrificing my family or burning out? My guest, Laura Sinclair, is going to answer that question for us. She's a marketing strategist and the founder of This Mother Means Business, a community that helps moms grow thriving, profitable businesses while staying present for their families. She's lived the highs and lows of entrepreneurship both before and after kids, kind of like me. And she's passionate about changing the narrative around what success looks like for moms in business. We'll be talking about why most business advice doesn't work for moms, how to find mentors who actually get your season of life, and what it takes to build a business that fits your real priorities, not someone else's idea of success. So, if you've ever felt like you're behind or that no one really gets how hard you're working to do both motherhood and entrepreneurship, this episode will remind you that you're not alone and give you a workable path forward. So, let's get into it. All right, everybody. I am so excited to have with us on the Nourish CEO podcast today, Laura Sinclair. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thanks, Laura. From one Laura asked to another. I'm
I
glad.
know it's like I meet a lot of Laurens and people call me Lauren a lot, so it's nice to meet another Laura. So we had chatted a little bit about what we wanted to talk about today because there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure both of us could talk about. Got a lot of probably similar experiences, similar perspectives on business. And what I kept coming back to is the thing that I, for whatever reason, keep seeing Laura come up on my threads feed with, which is this idea that if you're going to hire a coach as a mom, you might want to consider working with somebody who's also a mom. Now, I'm sure we have maybe different opinions. It might be similar, and maybe I'll come around to the same opinion as you in the future if we have another kid or something like that. But I wanted to talk about how a lot of the business advice out there is not necessarily appropriate or effective for moms, and why, if you are a mom, why you want to at least consider being in a community or working with a mentor or just being around other entrepreneurial moms so you don't feel like you're insane or lazy or that there's something wrong with you, that what's working for other people isn't working for you.
Yes. There's nuance to everything, right, Laura? And sometimes I say things on threads just because I know it's gonna stir the pot a little bit. People that I'm not for are going to run away from me as fast as possible, and the people is for are going to be like, "Yeah, I agree." Yeah, I think for me, so I was an entrepreneur before I had kids, which I think is also the case for you. And I did things in a very specific way before I had kids, right? I could work whenever. I hustled all of the time. Like I didn't have to do it. There was no rules. There was no bandwidth and a lot of that was wrong too, right? Like I had no boundaries. I worked all the time. That was my whole existence. And then having kids, I owned a brick and mortar gym at the time. And that changed everything, right? You just don't have the same bandwidth. You don't have the same priorities. But it doesn't mean that you can't be successful in business. I just think that there is not just think, I know, that there is a unique perspective that needs to be considered when we're moms building businesses. I think it's also important to remember is that every single person has different supports, right? We don't all have the same 24 hours, being to say, but we all have different supports. Some of us have family close by, some of us don't. Some of us have to hire. I'm in that I have to hire support. I don't have that with me. And yeah, I think there's just the realities to this whole motherhood and entrepreneurship thing that can really only be addressed if you understand it. And I think the thread that you're referring to specifically was one where I was saying something to the effect of like, if you are going to hire a mentor for your business and you're a mom, like you should hire another mom because nobody understands what it's like to be a mom as an entrepreneur unless your mom's an entrepreneur. I would happily take information from somebody that isn't a mom, right? If I want to learn lead generation or about ads or how to be better at sales, like all of that stuff. Yeah, you don't have to have kids in order to be an expert at any of that. I'm happy to dive in there. But when we think about mentorship and the way that I like to work with people, it is really that partnership and caring for not only the business, but the human. And I just need to be in spaces. And I think all moms should be in spaces, whether that's in mentorship or community or whatever, where you're around people who are having the same experience because entrepreneurship is so lonely.
Mhm.
And then you layer them together, and it's just this really deeply lonely experience that I lived, and I'm sure you probably have in certain moments too, where just having people that get it is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have had to work really hard to have any sort of community that feels like it's remotely meeting those needs where you're an entrepreneur and a mom. And, for me, a lot of that's actually local. We've made some
Uh,
local connections, and it's we see them. I see this group once a month. I know I could probably find time to meet up with some people more frequently, but just having that monthly touch point with women who are successful business owners and have children, it always just makes me feel like, okay, I'm not crazy that this is hard. I'm not crazy that this is like, so much more difficult than it was when I didn't have kids. It's not just the fact that it's 2025 and not, 2021, but all of that to say, I kind of had to not remove myself fully, but kind of like mentally remove myself from a lot of those communities that were facilitated and filled primarily with people that either didn't have kids at all or their kids were like teenagers, even because when you have a baby, it's like a totally different experience. It's almost like the phase of motherhood is so different that it's like, I don't know if it's even that comparable, but it's one of those things where I just, it made me feel like I was never able to keep up. And then I
yeah.
realized, like, wait, why am I trying to keep up with people that don't have children? Like, it's literally not possible. Why am I even trying?
Yeah, like, there's a certain level of empathy that's required, right? Like, and it's so interesting because I just onboarded a new client. We were having this conversation. She's got a very really little baby. She's got a business that it's an online business, is on, like, the cusp of blowing up. But she's navigating this like, "I know I could do all these things and it would blow up, but I also have this three-month-old baby that I really wanna be present for, so how do we decide where we're gonna put the gas on and where we're gonna hit the brakes?" And, like, I could have said to her, "Well, you just need to push through. We just need to figure it out. Can you get a nanny? Can you get someone to care for your kids so that you can have the space to do that?" None of those things came out of my mouth
Mhm.
because her priority is she wants to spend time with her baby. She knows that her business could rapidly grow really fast if we were to, I don't wanna say remove the baby, it's the thought that came in my head, but if she were to, "Hey, you know what? I'm not gonna breastfeed this baby anymore. I'm gonna choose not to be nap trapped. I'm going to just hand this off to a nanny full time, and I'll go all into my business." And I'm saying this, and this somebody's listening to this and be like, "Yeah, that's what I would wanna do," then great, you do that. But for this particular woman, that's not her priority. She wants to spend the time with her baby, and I'm so grateful that she's chosen me to be a person that's helped shepherd her through that. But I think if you are in a space like you're referencing and you don't understand what it's like, you could have a childless man say to you, "Well, why would you wanna do that? Why would you wanna do that when you could just grow your business and make 7 figures? Just, like, why would you wanna do it?"
Mhm.
That's if you don't understand it, and that's our priority, so that's what we're working with. We're trying to grow sustainably and as quickly as we can while also respecting where she is in her life and the season that she's in, and I just think that piece of it's so important.
Mhm. Why do you think people get spicy about it or salty about it when you share this on social media?
It's salty about it, so spicy about it. I think it's just triggering, and the reality is, Laura, it's triggering for some people because maybe they can't have kids or they have responsibilities in other ways that feel really heavy for them. But I think for me as a person that, really leans hard into supporting moms, it's okay for me to say things that are not gonna be for everybody, right? And I think there's that piece of it. I think people get their back up when they're being told, "Hey, you wouldn't be good at that." And there's lots of people who are childless that support moms, right? They have clients that are moms and they can help them, and that's great. Like, when I say a statement like that, I think that moms should work with other moms. That's not gonna be the case for every single person, right? If you're a mom of teenagers, right, to your point. I mean, even for me, my kids are 7 or sorry, 7, she's 8. Whew, 8 and almost 5. They don't need me in the same way that, you know, your little ones need you in this exact season. So I do, my kids are school age. I have a little more capacity than I did in the early seasons of my business. And it's not going to be a blanket statement for everybody, but I think it's just triggering for the folks that are good at what they do, right? They're good business mentors, they're good strategists, but they just sort of lack that awareness of what it means. And to be honest, when people get spicy about it, they're just further proving my point. Right? Like, if you're so mad, like, that's the point, and, I mean, I was 24 and probably would have thought the same thing at one point too. So before I had kids, I would have been like, "That's so dumb. Why would that be the case?" And I get it. Again, you just don't get it unless you live it.
Mhm. Have you had some personal experiences that have informed this perspective?
Yeah, I have a few. I actually have 3. So there's 3 really distinct moments for me that sort of solidified this for me. And so the first one was when I owned a brick and mortar gym. And early on into my ownership of the gym, I hired a business mentor. I sort of was part of a group. I owned a CrossFit gym at the time. It was a group of mentors that looked after micro gyms. And I had this lovely coach. He was great, lovely. My daughter was probably about 16 months old at the time, and we would set up her calls. She'd be in her high chair, like eating food. I don't all sorts of Cheerios all over the high chair tabletop while I'm trying to get my coaching call in. And there was a day where I said to him, "Hey, I'm really struggling." He'd been mentoring me for about a year at this point. And I was just like, "I'm really struggling. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like feeling like I'm failing." And like just kind of had this moment of like, "Hi, I'm having a hard time." And he sort of was like, "Yeah, yeah, I know, like, you can maybe talk to your husband," and kinda gave me some blanket stuff, and he's like, "Look, let's pull up this spreadsheet and look at your data." And it's like looking at all my data of all the things that I am failing at, which is like, it's not what I needed. I didn't need him to say, "Oh, let's pull up our spreadsheet now." Like, I just told you for 20 minutes that I'm having a really hard time. Like, maybe we could have spent this time talking about how I could have less of a hard time, some strategies I could put into place to support that rather than you pulling up my spreadsheet of my sales data and how many leads I have coming in and whether I'm converting them. Like, it was just not what I needed.
Mhm.
And I actually asked that mentor very shortly after. He since apologized to me actually, like a few months later. He was like, "I really screwed that up, didn't I?" And it's like, "Yeah, yeah, you did." So that was the first sort of moment for me where I was like, "Oh, you're here to like just help me build my business and don't actually have the capacity or the understanding of what it is that I actually need in this moment."
Mhm.
And certainly not to look at my sales data. Like, I don't care. I'm sitting here telling you that my human needs some tending to. I do not care what my sales data is. So that was the first one. Second one, I was actually speaking with a pretty large online business coach on social media about joining an intensive program with her, going back and forth. This was a couple years ago. And it was a pretty big investment. It was going to be like, I would say $11,000 for 2 months. Like, it was gonna be that was the most money that I'd ever would have spent on mentors for US, and I'm Canadian, which means
So it's like 100 grand
like
Canadian.
$100,000 for 2 months. And, yeah, I ended up making the decision, "Hey, you know what? It's gonna be over July and August, which is our summer." And I said, "Hey," I went back to her, I was like, "Hey, you know what? I'd love to just be able to start this in September because I know that I'm not gonna be able to give $100,000 worth of effort in July and August." I had little kids. At that point, my little guy was probably 3, 2, 3, and I'd love to just be able to start this in the fall when I have more capacity. I wanna be able to enjoy the summer with my kids. I never heard back. I never got this is an over email. Never got an email back. And then, I think maybe half an hour after I sent the email, she had went on her Instagram stories and started talking about if one more person tells her that they don't wanna work over the summer, she's gonna lose her shit. I don't know if I can swear on your show, and just went on and on and on about how lazy it is. How lazy it is that a person wouldn't want that. I was like, "No, you're talking about me. I just sent you this email half an hour ago, and, like, you're talking about me, and thank you for, reaffirming for me that would not have been the right decision. Thank you for saving me $100,000 in the 2 months." But, like, I wasn't saying no. I never said no. I said, "Just not right now. Can we start in September?" And instead took to Instagram stories, lack of empathy, right? Like, not understanding. It's just the perception is that, "Well, you're lazy. Like, that's lazy of you to not wanna do that."
Mhm.
And no, but I literally just said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna take a beat here. I live in Canada. My summer is like this we can wait all year to
3
go for
hours long?
my first 3 minutes, like, let me spend the time with my kids." And so, that was the second time, and then the third time, I was at a round table, like a mastermind round table that I had paid thousands of dollars to be at and in front of, 30 other entrepreneurs, and was talking about when we got there, we sort of were talking about, like, what is it that we want? What is it that we need? And I just said, like, "I'm really tired. I'm looking for simplicity in my business. I'm tired." And one of the things that I do in my business is I offer a biweekly free community call that Anyone can come to. I still do them. This is years ago that I was at this thing. I've been running these calls for 3 years every other Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time for mom entrepreneurs. And the advice that I received was to run these calls more, run them more. So you do them, every 2 weeks at 10 a.m., but, like, you should do them 3 times a week. Offer them 3 times a week, 2 of them at night, and I was just like, "Yeah, no, like, I don't that doesn't feel right for me. I don't have the capacity for that." And the mentor went off. He went off and basically, like, called me lazy. I'm so sick of entrepreneurs not saying they wanna work hard. This is, like, in person in front of 30 people. And thankfully, at that point, I had done enough work on myself and enough work on, like, what I believe to be right that I didn't immediately burst into tears in the room because there's a version of myself that would've, and he came over to me sort of in, like, a quiet time after. He was like, "I hope that wasn't upsetting for you." And I was like, "No, but did you wanna come to my house and do bedtime twice a week so that I can host these calls that you're suggesting?" And it was like, he sort of was taken aback by me even saying that. He's like, "I don't you're missing the point here, sir." And so there's been enough moments like that, and I've seen enough in my own experience, and I've had enough women come to me and say, "Hey, I was receiving mentorship in this way. I was made to feel shitty, lazy, unworthy. There's something wrong with me, that this isn't possible for me because I have little kids." And whether you're a person who is like, I call it like mom first, who's just like, I'm going to be mom first and everything else has to wait. Or if you're a person that strives for a little more integration of both, right? It's like, yes, I'm going to be present for my kids and I really want to pursue my ambition and these goals. I think regardless of that, like, there's just a level of empathy that is required, a level of understanding that's required. And part of, the way that I work is so focused on the human on the other side of this business,
Mhm.
and that your business runs and my business runs and someone else, like, you could be running. I have lots of clients that do the same things, but we have to run their businesses very differently based on their priorities, their support systems, their values. And so I can't give the same advice to 2 people that have 2 different sets of priorities, which makes my job really fun and hard and gets to be really creative. But yeah, my personal experience with that obviously hasn't been positive, and I have also had great interactions with people without kids, but all 3 of those moments really all came down to, like, my human, right? Like, who I was as a person, understanding what it is that I need as a human being building a business, because it's never just about the business. It's
Mhm.
like A plus B equals C, go do these XYZ things to build your business. It's like we have to consider the person that's at the helm of this thing, and then all of the other factors that come into play.
Mhm. Well, and it's funny because I feel like I haven't had any really bad experiences like that. I mean, most of my experiences where I felt like it was a mismatch came more down to how much output a lot of the strategies would take to be
Yeah.
able to execute. And even strategies that I used to do, like I used to run, very involved 3-part live launches where it would be like 3 different events over the course of it's like a week or whatever. I don't know if those work anymore. Like, people are so tired and busy. It's like, do they even show up for these anymore? It probably does, but I just remember the last time I did it, I did have my daughter, and I can't remember there was one launch I ran, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, where my husband actually had to go in for surgery, like, I don't know if it was, like, the day before. Like, this was, like, spinal cord surgery, so there was, like, "If this doesn't
Sure.
go well, this could be really serious," right? So I was very stressed. I was pregnant at the time, and I was like, "This is" I mean, I'll show up and do it, that's the kind of person I am, like, I'll show up and just, like, do the training, but and do my best, obviously, but it's like, do I wanna set up my business that if life gets crazy, which now that we have 2 kids, it's like one's sick, one's
Mhm.
tantruming, one's there's just, like, stuff going on and there's 0 control over any day-to-day experience. It's like, do I wanna actually have a business model that if stuff hits the fan the week that I'm supposed to launch that, like, that could be half our revenue for the year that gets messed up, right? And so, I do feel like even learning business strategies from people who don't have children can be tough because it's like, this strategy actually relies on a lot of control of environment and control of energy and like, boundaries and that kind of thing. And at least in this stage where, 7-month-old and 3-year-old, like we don't we don't have like any boundaries with what our kids need on a day-to-day basis. Right. And so for me, a lot of it became more of a problem because I was like, I don't have any model for how this can work with this season of life. And
Mhm.
I learned by not imitation, but like I'll see what somebody's doing and say, okay, how could that apply to my business and do it that way in my business? And being in these rooms where people just were like, "Oh, I did this and I did that, and here's our launch debrief, and like here's all the stuff we did." And I'm just like, I can't use like 90% of this. And now I'm just like, which of these strategies am I even going to actually be able to implement? So it just started to feel like I was always like behind what everybody else was able to do with their launches and their revenue and all this stuff. And to add insult to injury there, I do think even this year, especially this year's been very odd. I don't know if you've noticed a lot of mom entrepreneurs quitting and being like, I'm going to do full time momming. I'm not going to like be a coach anymore. And that I had a moment where I was like, am I insane for doing this? Like, is this just something that people can't do? These like seven figure business owners that are just like, never mind. I don't want to do this anymore. But I also realized like, oh, actually, that can be something that actually helps my business grow because I can say, hey, the business that I'm running works as a mom with babies. And so what I teach you, whether you have kids or not, like it can work because you don't have to have this like perfect life environment for it to actually function for you. So it's just been such a weird experience to feel like I have to find the people who are kind of as they say, the expanders, right? Where it's like showing me that it's possible to still run a business. Cause for me, I'm the breadwinner of the house. Like my husband works in the business. So I don't have the option of just being like, yeah, I'm just gonna like not do my business anymore. Um,
They
so yeah, so it's like, okay, no, we're doing this. This is our life. And it has to work with the current circumstance that we're in. Like there's no other option. And so for me, it's just been like, this experience of saying, "Okay, I'm gonna stop paying attention to the people who really don't have that life because it's irrelevant to me, and let me start to seek out the people who their life and their business actually matches the one that I'm building so that things actually make sense for me."
I do really think we have to filter our sources, like, with that said, right? I think this is something that people struggle with, honestly, Laura, is we don't have the discernment to be like, "I can't do that, but maybe there's a way I could modify that or do a version of that." Like, success leaves clues, right? So, okay, if we're seeing you use the 7-day, 3-day launch example. Okay, well, can I do 1 day? Right? What would it take for me to do 1 day? And or maybe I actually can't show up live at all. So maybe I do a pre-recorded webinar and I use the tech that makes it seem like it's live and they can book a time. Like there are ways around it, but I think we really do need to filter our sources, right? If we surround ourselves with people who are expanders who can show that it's possible without totally lighting yourself on fire every single day. I talk a lot about, inside of this on the raise business and in my programs, we talk about the bare ass minimum. Or when we talk about something, when my clients will say, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and this, I'll be like, okay, but like what the bare ass minimum I could do here? Can we start there? And then we'll like add in what's possible instead of looking at something as this big pie in the sky massive idea. Like let's just start with the most simple version of this and then we'll add complexity where it's required because, you're proof that it's possible. I'm proof that it's possible. And I built it through your season. I'm in a slightly different season of motherhood now. But yeah, it's a great point just around like we make things so complex when we don't need to most of the time.
Well, and I had made a post about this, and I'm assuming that you saw all the hoopla about Alex Hormozy's book
Oh, yeah.
launch. And
Impossible to miss.
right, and not just and listen, I actually I have this, like, love-hate relationship with Hormozy. I'm like, a lot of what he says I absolutely hate, and then a lot of it I'm like, "That's actually good advice." So I try to, like, pick and choose what I listen to him about.
Your sources. That's good. That's good.
Right. And I remember seeing all these people saying like, "Oh, I watched the full 4-hour launch, and now I'm doing, like, my 1-hour live debrief of the thing." I was like, "Oh my god, it's Saturday. Like, why are we doing this on a Saturday?" And so I put this post up being like, "Here's what I was doing instead of watching the Hormozy cajillion dollar book launch." And, I think some people were like, "Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with watching that stuff." But I'm like, "Yeah, no, I didn't say there was nothing or anything wrong with it." I was like, "I just me sitting on a 4-hour launch regardless right now of what day it is, what time it is, that's not happening. To do that on a Saturday where it's like, my kids it's nice out, my kids wanna do some stuff, like, we're not gonna just sit here and put them in front of a screen so that I can be in front of a screen for 4 hours, you know? And so, I'm sure there was some interesting stuff that was shared, but I'm like, this is not I don't even have interest in doing this right now, and everyone was, like, freaking out about how amazing it was. I was like, I don't have the bandwidth right now for any of this."
Could you imagine if you actually had 4 hours to sit down? Like, what a concept. If you're as a mom, you're just gonna sit in silence for 4 hours. Like, no, I will happily take the Coles notes of that. And no, I agree. And Hormozy, like, and just any of those sort of guru type bro marketing guys. It's funny because I owned a gym. And so I actually know from I've known Hormozy like from when he was doing gym launch, right? I owned a
Mhm.
gym at the time. So it's been really interesting to watch that, watch his rise. And I agree with you, right? We talked about filter. There's always going to be things that people say that can be helpful, but there are going to be things that are absolutely ridiculous. There was a reel that Hormozy posted a couple of months ago. It was about like what the keys to success. And the first one was like, wake up like, when your body wakes up kind of thing. And I was like, "Well, I hope you don't have kids." Like, tell me that you don't have kids without telling me you don't have kids. Because if you could just wake up when your body wakes up, like, that's not how it works when you have small people. And some of these gurus are better at acknowledging, "Hey, I don't have kids." Like, Brock Johnson, who's one of the sort of online Instagram guys, he posts a fair amount of like, "Hey, I don't have kids, so this is why I can do this," which I appreciate. Yeah, we do need to learn to filter our sources. It's really important because otherwise we get into a place where we feel like shit because we're like, "Well, I can't do that, so then I must not be able to do this at all." It's like, "Well, no, you can." It might look a little smaller, work a little slower than the Hormozis of the world, but it also might not. I mean, I have a client who has a full-time job that I've been trying to get her to quit for 2 years, which she just really loves it, and she has a baby, and she's running this business, like a multi-six-figure business, and had just had our first baby, well, 2 years ago now. We've been working together for a long time. But, like, that's proof that's exactly possible. She's literally doing everything, and it's all happened relatively quickly, like, in the span of 3 or 4 years. But I think in the online space, we live in this sort of instant gratification, and we feel like, well, if Hormozy says I just need to do this one thing, and then I'm gonna make 7 figures, and it doesn't happen tomorrow, then I'm failing, but I can't even do it the way that they wanna do it because I also have been up 7 times last night, and I'm a human food source. Like, these are we have to be realistic about where we're coming from, and these perspectives are important, and awareness is important. Like, being a mom and being in a season where your kids need you a lot, it's not a failure. That's
Mhm.
just your season, and there will be other seasons where things feel lighter, and I'm sort of into that now. I have 2 kids that are school age, and it's like, well, I mean, I got all day, 5 days a week. Well, not all day. I've got 9 to 3.
Feels like all day. If I had 9 to 3, that would feel like all day to me.
That is, like, all day to that version of myself that has 7-month-old and a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old. So, yeah, I've been there.
Mhm. I think it was Hormozy that said something like, he will lock himself in his office for 12 hours, and his office has, like, no windows because he doesn't wanna be distracted by anything happening outside. And I was like, first of all, that sounds, like, miserable. Second of all, I have a literal, like, 2 to 3 hour timer where not an actual timer, but basically, if I don't if I'm not available to feed my baby every 2 to 3 hours, it's a problem. So it's like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to sit and work for 12 hours straight regardless of even if that sounded attractive because I am an actual food source
Just
for
like,
humans. So sorry, can't do that.
I don't even wanna sit in a room for 12 hours and work. Like, what are we overcomplicating that you need to be there for 12 hours sitting in one room?
Yeah. I mean, I always think about like, am I going to look back on my life and regret not making more money? Or am I going to look back on my life and regret not going outside when it's a nice day or not, having a weekend with my kids on a regular?
No, when my time comes, I really hope that it's not like, "Wow, Laura really made a lot of money and she was really thin." I hope like, those are not the things that
She
I
was so rich. It was
was
amazing.
so rich and she was such a babe. Like, those are not the things that I hope that people say my children say about me or people say about me, like so, I think and I'm a deeply ambitious person, let's be clear. I do also wanna be so rich. Like, let's be clear about that. But
Rich on top of all the other good stuff.
on top of everything else, not rich first, right? Like, I think there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. I really do believe that we can have it all. You don't have to do it all. You shouldn't do it all, but I believe that. I believe that if you have a dream, a goal that you want to go after, and you want to be a present mom, you can do that. I have so many examples of that in my life, and I'm so grateful for that, both through mentors that I've had, women that have joined my community, the people that I've just met along the way. Like, I'm so grateful for those examples. And I think that, like, we get to choose how we wanna show up. If you're a person that wants to be locked in a room for 12 hours with noise canceling headphones, go for it. I do not. There's no version of me that would ever enjoy that, and I love my work. I really do. I love coaching. I love what we're building, but yeah, there's no way I would do that. And I think for anybody that's listening, like for me, the takeaway, and I think the thing that's really important that we have to remember is like you can do whatever you want with your life. There is no one way. There's no one way to be successful. There's no one way to be a good mom. Like you get to do it your way. And certainly don't let Alex Hormozy be the person that dictates how you should do it.
Mhm. Well, I know for me, one of the things I had to really get over was this belief that I wasn't gonna be able to keep up with the other people that are the competitors, right? And I don't believe in the concept of, like, there isn't enough room for everybody, and I feel like there was this feeling of, if I can't actually keep up, they're gonna keep going, like, farther ahead, and I'm just gonna kinda, like, be limping along behind them, and so I had to really kinda just decide that and I don't know if you can hear my daughter screaming. I'm like, "Noise canceling headphones
Right.
are not canceling enough right now,"
Okay,
but
good. I can't hear anything.
well,
Good.
it would be appropriate for this episode. But what I was gonna say is that I just had to decide, like, it doesn't matter. There's nothing I can do about the fact that I have 2 children, and it's nothing that I wanna, like you said, like, drop them off at daycare and then get a night nanny so that I can work 12 hours a day, right? It's like, this is the life that I've chosen, to have children, to be a mom, to, you know, be breastfeeding even as a choice. It's not gonna change anytime soon, and the more I stress about, "Oh, this is harder for me. Oh, this is like, I can't do as much as I want to. I never feel like I'm getting enough done." Like, that was just adding insult to injury and, like, actually making it harder for me to do what needed to get done to be successful, and I say successful, like, for me, it's like, if we can pay all our, bills and then make some profit every month, I'm happy at this stage of the game, and it just was something where I realized that I was just really making everything a lot harder on myself by constantly feeling like I wasn't doing enough, that other people are doing more, that, "Oh, they're doing this there's another launch, and I haven't launched in a year and a half." Like, it's just deciding that this is what it is. I'm gonna do the best with what I have and what I'm capable of right now, and I've been actually really pleasantly surprised to see what I have been capable of achieving with the business, with our sales, all of that, even in a very, very difficult season, little sleep, little free time, like, just kind of hanging on by a thread sometimes with certain days. So for me, that's actually really exciting because it makes me realize, oh, I don't have to be working 12-hour days to have a multi six-figure business and multi six-figure profit. So yeah, that was something that, it was a decision to decide I'm not gonna compare myself to other people's experiences or process or speed anymore, because it's not helpful and it's not relevant.
No, and the thing that is so funny about that is that we put ourselves in races against people who, like, don't even know that they've signed up for a race. Right? It's like, you're who? What? Why? What do you mean? We create these fake scenarios where, like, I have to keep up with that person. Well, does that person know that you're keeping up with them? Like, why? Why do we do that? And I mean, we could go on about that forever, right? About why we do the things that we do and why we try to keep up with other people. But one of the things I talk about a lot, and whenever I do keynotes and things like that around this topic, is around like we need to get ourselves out of the race. It's a race that only you know that you're in. The people you're racing against are completely unaware that you've decided that those are the opponents that you're chasing after. So it's like, just stop. Like, how much lighter would things feel if you just said, "Actually, I'm not in a race at all. That I'm just on this journey," right? If you learn to fall in love with the journey, and I know this is cliche, but if you learn to fall in love with the journey and not the destination, everything gets so much easier. Because the other thing that happens is like the destination usually just gets farther away, right? And we're usually not the version of ourselves that we need to be at to get where we want to go. Like when I think about this Mother Means business and what I'm building and where I want that to go, I don't think I'm the version of myself I need to be yet to be able to hold what that's going to be. And so if I learned to, and it's not always perfect, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm perfect, but learn to really focus on just the journey and what I'm creating and who I'm becoming in this process and what my kids are getting to see. I hosted my first in person event this year in April, and I had 65 women come, which I thought was pretty darn good for my first ever in person event coming out of an online business, not running any ads, just please come to my thing. And, my 4-year-old and my 7-year-old at the time, like, they filled all 65 bags with me. And they helped me put all the swag in those bags. And my daughter looked at me, she's like, "Mommy, you have such a big, cool business." And I didn't get to see that when I was a kid growing up. I mean, my mom, bless her, she gave up her career and was a stay-at-home mom, and that's what she did. And so I didn't know what was possible for motherhood and entrepreneurship. And so for me, like being able to show that to my daughter, like that's totally worth it. That's more important than any race that I've created for myself. And I'm sure this year we're hoping, and next year we're hoping to have 100 people. And I'm sure my 8-year-old's going to be like, "Are we doing the bags again?" But I have the videos of us filling the bags, and like those are memories that I'm going to cherish. And that's so much more important to me than worrying about what someone else in my space is doing.
Or how many commas that are on your P&L for the year, right?
Right. Like, or adding an extra zero, which like would be nice, but like for what?
Mhm. Well, and I think that's the important thing is we're not saying that going after goals is not worth it or that money is irrelevant. Like I definitely have financial goals myself and money helps enjoy life
Awesome.
more. So, but I do think I've talked to some other people about this where it's like the arbitrary, oh, it's the seven figure, I'm gonna finally hit seven figures, and you're just like arbitrarily chasing it. And then you end up making decisions because you wanna hit that number that are actually, like, stressing you out, making you work more than you want to, making it where your expenses are going up, and it's like, "What is the point? Like, what am I actually doing here?" Like, making 7 figures in a calendar year for my business is not gonna just, like, magically change my life.
No, it's also doesn't even take in consideration actual profit, often said so. But it's so interesting. I love that you say that because I have this conversation a lot too when people will say to me, okay, in certain business models, I work with a lot of people in either the wellness space, which works really nicely for our conversation. And I work with a lot of people that have agencies because I have a corporate marketing background. I worked in agencies, I ran an agency. So I have a lot of people in this space. And so people will come to me and this applies for wellness too, where they'll say, like, I wanna scale my business, and I'll be like, "Okay, great. Question number 1 that I have for you is, do you wanna manage people? Do you want a team? Do you wanna, like, is that something that you desire?" Because in order for you to hit 7 figures, potentially, that may require you bringing on team. That may mean a lot of other headaches. Like, is that something that you want? And sometimes the answer is yes, but a lot of the time the answer is no. Like, "Oh, well, like, we can hit 7 figures, but if it's costing you, you know, $700,000 to run this thing, like, what if we just built you something that was gonna still make you 300 grand a year and you got to keep most of it?" Right?
Mhm.
Like, it's just an interesting conversation sometimes when we think about the human. This came up actually on a inside of this Mother Means business, a connection call the other day. Someone was saying, "I wanna go to more of a agency model. I wanna make more money." And I was like, "Cool. Do you wanna manage people? Because that's where we gotta start. Is that how you wanna spend your time?" And her answer was actually no. I was like, "Okay. So we gotta come at it a different way then."
Mhm. Yeah, we talked about this where people think they want the low ticket model where it's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do a membership that's like $17 a month or a course that's like 197 or something." And I had a friend that came on and talked about her experience growing her, nutrition business to, I think about a half a million last year on a $297 product, and she admitted that I think it was like 90% of the work she does on any given day is marketing and looking at data and ads management and content creation to get more people in her funnel. And I just don't think people really understand when they're making choices that choice is not being made in a vacuum. So if you think it's easier to sell something that's cheap, like, is it actually easier or is it just a totally different business model that for that individual, that's what she likes to do? She loves marketing, she loves sales, like she loves focusing on that part of her business. But most of the people I work with really just love serving their clients and they would be happy to work with like 5 to 10 people at a time and make the same amount of money as if they're trying to sell, 200 low ticket courses every month. So I do think people need to be able to understand the context of the decisions and not just say, "Oh, it'd be so nice to have this passive course that people can just buy and they don't have to do any delivery." And it's like, you're not gonna just not work. Like you have to do all the work on the sales and marketing side if you want to make money doing that. So,
Passive's a total myth. It's a total myth, right? Like,
mhm,
passive, like, no, it's not. It's not. And we don't think about the amount. It's like great to have a $17 offer, but do you have the volume of people? You know how much work you have to do to have the volume of people that you would need for a $17 offer to become profitable. The only way that my clients that have smaller audiences that I'm like, yeah, let's do a $17 offer is if it leads into something like much better down the road, right? You're
mhm,
making leader. It's not, oh, I'm trying to build my whole income off of this $17 offer or this $17 offer serves some greater purpose. But
mhm.
I think we forget that, right? If someone's like, oh, I'm just starting my business. I'm gonna start with a $27 thing. It's like mm, that sounds, I mean, great, but also it's
Yeah,
for what? Yeah, I think that's
I
a great
know. I think, especially nowadays, the volume businesses are even harder than they ever were just because it is unless you're spending a lot of money on ads, which, the friend of mine that talked about the low ticket, she spends a lot of money on ads to get that volume. And so I think just people make assumptions about, oh, it'd be so much easier if I didn't have like the pricing objections that come from higher ticket. I'm like, you're still going to get pricing objections even at $300. So, if you're gonna get them anyway, might as well charge more and not have to have thousands of people coming to your business every day. So, I know that you have a community, you've mentioned it a few times. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of benefit you see for a community like that, for moms specifically, that maybe working with a coach, like, one-on-one or being in more of, like, a higher level mastermind or something that it serves a different purpose, because I do think sometimes people can look at the lower ticket communities as being like, "Oh, it's not gonna be as helpful," or it's not gonna be like, I don't get one-on-one time with a coach or something, but I'm sure it's working well for your group to have that kind of experience with maybe a bigger group or a different type of group than something that you're spending like 30 grand for the year to participate in. So, what are some of the benefits that your clients, students, whatever you call them, your community are getting from being in a community like that?
Yeah, I think that that's a great point that you make, and I wanna just before we dive into this, there's no point in joining anything if you're not gonna use it, right? And so whether it's a community like mine is $127 a month or let even the $30,000 thing that we're talking about, right? The people that get the most out of it are people that are gonna use it. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, look at lower ticket things and they let them collect dust in their internet graveyard when, you can really dive in. But the Smother Means Business is my brand. It is the name of my podcast. We've done retreats under This Mother Means Business. We had our first event under This Mother Means Business. And last year I broke my leg and I was in bed for a much longer than I would have liked. And it brought me back to that postpartum window when I had like a little baby and I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't drive. It was my right leg. Couldn't drive, couldn't go anywhere. Like it was really isolating. And in that isolation, I was reminded of just how lonely all of this can really be. And so that was one of my big motivators for starting the community was just around creating opportunities and spaces for women who are navigating the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship to do so in community, to do so they don't feel so darn alone in this process. Just show up and complain about your kids if that's what you want to do, to like have someone say like, "Actually, Laura, you're not a crazy person. Like I'm the same." Or to just to feel like, "Oh my gosh, there are people. I'm not crazy. There are people going through this. Like this is doable." And to give them, not the loneliness, but also not just like the sort of antidote to loneliness, but also prove what's possible, right? Which is what we were talking about before, evidence of what's possible. So there was that side of it. The other side of it for me was wanting to, gosh, I meet so many mom entrepreneurs who have amazing ideas and they're great at the things that they do. and they are not great at the business thing. And one of the things for me, one of my core beliefs, and we've talked about this a little bit on the show, is really being able to customize experiences for individual people, right? Not one, no, you can have two different businesses that need different solutions for the same outcome. And I wanted to create a place where I could give that to more people that isn't going to cost them thousands of dollars because not everybody has thousands of dollars. And I really believe that more money in the hands of women is going to change the world, especially mothers. And so creating this Mother Means business was twofold. It was about this loneliness piece, but also about sort of democratizing some of the coaching and some of what's accessible for mom entrepreneurs. A lot of the women that are in there are working towards their first six figures. They're trying to, or first six figures or next six figures, or even just to make it six figures in profit, right? Because we know there's lots of businesses that make a lot of money that don't have a lot of profit. And so I've changed it. It's sort of ebbed and flowed. Initially, it was a much lower ticket offer with not a lot of coaching. Now there's office hours with me every month. We meet and have networking calls. We mastermind as a group. So there's peer-to-peer masterminds that happen every single month. But it is really intended, and I'm on every single call. It is really intended to create a supportive space that will allow women to stay accountable, to stay in momentum, to get answers to their questions, and to get to that destination, that first six figures, next six figures faster without having to, Google search or listen to somebody that is giving out information for free that won't work for them. And a lot of these women are women that have done it or women that are doing it. And gosh, there's so much power in just being able to see them work with each other and solve things for each other. Hey, I've been there, I've done that. And so there's a big spirit of collaboration. I get to support a little bit, obviously not as much as I would like to because I'm one human, but I get to dive in and give some thoughts and support in unique ways. And so that's really the intention of it. The intention is, so if you're a lonely mom, entrepreneur, you want to be in community with other moms and you want some help. And maybe you're not in a season where, investing in a mastermind or a one-on-one coach is in reach for you. But the idea is that this Mother Means business is going to help you get to that place.
Well, and I think this is really important for anyone who is questioning the viability of, especially one to many type of offers, digital offers in the future because of all the like AI stuff and ChatGPT and all of that. And I think just knowing that the people that you're learning from and learning with understand your circumstances and your context, you're not going to get that from a ChatGPT
No.
inquiry, right? Like it's a software, it doesn't know anything about the challenges of being a mom. So I do think for anyone who's interested in creating any type of offer that is a virtual offer that's not one-on-one, creating something where the context is part of it, I think is a really smart business move because that context is not replaceable by just the general internet searches. And like you said, they might be Googling stuff and it's like, well, is this even going to work? Is this even like, how could this work as a mom versus if you're in a community with other moms and you're like, I'm thinking about doing this. People can say, oh, I tried that and this is what happened. It was great or it was terrible. And like, you just get that context that is relevant to you and it's not just hoping that maybe it's going to fit your life and your needs and the challenges that you're working with. So I do think anyone who's creating any offer, let alone something that's like a larger size group, making sure that that piece is in it. Cause I think that's a lot of where the value comes. It's less about like, oh, this is information that you're getting that anyone else could provide.
Yeah, I agree. The context is really important. The implementation is also really important, right? And this is, if we're going to go to the conversation of anyone that's creating digital offers, I think the age of selling information is pretty dead at this
Hmm.
point. Information has never been more accessible than it is right now. It's free. You can find out anything, especially with AI. But yeah, we need to bring context to situations and we also need to bring implementation, right? Okay, great. I have this information. Like, what do I do with it? And so I think that those are the pieces that as coaches that we need to shift towards. Like nobody cares about, my four ways to make more sales. That's not helpful, right? We need to help people actually implement this information and take action with it and do it through a lens of actual understanding.
Mhm.
Appreciate that, Laura.
Yeah. Well, if anyone is interested in learning more about this membership and this community that you've created, where can they go to find out more?
You can go to thismothermeansbusiness.com. We're at This Mother Means Business on Instagram, and you can check me out. I'm active on Threads. Laura mentioned very loud on Threads at It's Laura Sinclair. Same on Instagram at It's Laura Sinclair.
I love it. It's so funny because I think you just showed up on my feed. It's probably because I got, put into the side of Threads that's like the business owning moms. And then I saw your name come up on my interview list because my team member was reaching out to people. I was like, oh, that's really funny that I'm going to be interviewing her. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this conversation. And thank you for sharing everything that you've been through and the things that have shaped you as a business owner and a mom, because it is something where I'm always very happy to see other mom entrepreneurs that are thriving and, still in the game, even with all the craziness of the last couple of years and proving that it is possible as long as you're doing it in a way that actually meets your needs and your desires.
Thanks, Laura. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, we'll see you guys here next week on the Nurse CEO podcast. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and it brought you value, I would be so grateful if you would take a minute to leave a review over on iTunes. Your feedback not only helps more amazing coaches and practitioners like you find the show, it also helps me keep creating the kind of content that you want more of. Just head over to Apple Podcasts, search for the Nourished CEO podcast, scroll down and tap that write a review button. It only takes a minute and it means the world to me. Thanks again for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.